Hi, this is Chadwick Wood from Coffee Shop in Austin, Texas, and today I want to demonstrate for you a little sound design on the Korg microKorg using my app Patch Bass. I'll quickly go through the setup and then just try exploring some sounds. So the first thing I'm going to do is fire up my microKorg over here. We'll make sure we've got some sound. Looking good. Okay, so the synth is on and we have audio coming in. Now in Patch Bass, I'm going to double click on the microKorg to open up the voice editor. So here we have the voice editor, shows you all the parameters available on the microKorg. But before we get into the sound design, I'm going to quickly run through the MIDI setup. Up here, you have the microKorg menu, and it lists all your available MIDI inputs and MIDI outputs. I have my microKorg connected to my Volt 4, so I have those selected for both MIDI in and MIDI out. As far as MIDI channel, you can open up this global section of the editor, and here I have it set to MIDI channel 1, which matches the MIDI channel set on my microKorg. So with that, now we are ready to do some sound design. What I'm going to do is just create an init patch and then start messing around and letting you hear what happens as I change things and try to explain a little bit along the way. So first off, we have the init patch. And it's just one oscillator. Let's bring in the second oscillator, maybe detune it a little bit. You could do a chord. One thing I want to mention is a lot of times you'll see things on the screen change quickly. That's because a lot of times what I like to do is select a parameter and then use the up and down arrows on the keyboard to change the values, because I find it to be a lot faster than clicking everything with the mouse. So if you see things just changing on their own, that's because I'm doing it on the keyboard. Let's see, bring in the filter a little bit. Add the filter envelope. Kind of a classic analog filter sound. Let's put a little release on it. Right, you can make it ring out a little longer. Let's take out that second oscillator and play around with some of the other oscillator types. You've got pulse width control here. Which you can modulate with the LFO. Speed it up a little. Let's see, what else do we have here? The triangle wave. The sine cross wave, that's kind of an FM-ish sort of thing. Let's bring up the filter here. Let's see, if we modulate it with the LFO. I don't love that. Let's see. So one interesting thing you can do here is let's turn off the LFO modulation and instead modulate it with an envelope. And that will act a little more like a traditional FM synth where you have an envelope changing the amount of FM in time. So what I'm going to do is take the filter envelope and not have it control the filter at all by turning the envelope depth to 0. I'm going to open up the filter all the way. And then I'm going to use the modulation section, the patch section, to make the filter envelope control oscillator 1 control 1, which is cross mod, that first parameter here. And then if I turn this up, now the filter envelope is controlling this cross mod parameter. Let's slow down that decay. Let's turn down the amount it's affecting it. You can get kind of an FM sound. It's kind of harsh though. Turn it down a little. Can make it go negative on it. Let's see what else can we do here. Let's try out the Vox wave. Again, now the filter envelope is modulating the wave mod parameter on Vox wave. You get kind of a filter effect. It sounds kind of like a filter, but it's really just modulating the waveform. All right, let's turn that off and check out DWGS. That's a bunch of saved waveforms on the microKorg that sort of emulate different sorts of oscillators. SynSign. I'm going to use the arrows to just kind of jump through them. Some of these are kind of additive synthesis sounds. Maybe FM sounds. So that gives a bit of a demonstration of what you can do within a single timbre. I guess the next thing to show you is just the effects, which are easy to turn on and off and play with. Let's go back to just a sawtooth here. We've got a sawtooth. If we want to add some decay, it's up here. Or sorry, delay. We just turn up the depth on the stereo delay. And it's got a cross delay and a left-right delay, which gives you a nice wide stereo feel. Speaking of width, you can also turn on the chorus and flanger down here in the mod effects. Let's turn that up a bit and hear what we get. When you turn the depth and the speed up, you start to get much wackier sounds. Oh, that sounds like a chord. That's pretty cool. Anyway, let's turn down the speed to something more typical. So those are the effects. Over here, you also have an EQ that you can set. Okay, so that's some of what you can do with a single timbre. Now, the microKorg also has a layer mode, which we can switch to. And what that does is it gives you two timbres played on top of each other, which you can use to create thicker sounds. Or just you can make two detuned voices, or you could do totally separate sounds. How about I just demonstrate one? One neat thing you can do with the layered timbres is create big chords. So let's see. On the first timbre, I've got my oscillator 1 here, oscillator 2. I'm going to set up 7 semitones and turn it up so you can hear it. And then in timbre 2, I will tune the whole timbre up by 14. I used tune. What I meant was transpose. Let's transpose it up 14. And now we have a bigger chord. If we do it 9. One thing you can hear there is that the first timbre is ringing out a little longer than the second timbre because I have the release set higher on the first timbre. So a nice thing you can do is right click, copy the amp envelope on the first timbre, click over to timbre 2, paste, and now I have the same amp envelope on both of them. Can set different oscillators on the second timbre. Add some delay to make it really big. I always love to go down an octave. So that's an example of layering timbres. Next, let's go into the vocoder. Because the vocoder typically involves using a microphone, and I've got my microKorg all the way over there, I'm not going to use the vocoder in that way today. What I'm going to do instead is show you a mode where you can not use a microphone and instead sort of shape the sound using formants or using constant levels on the different channels of a bandpass filter. Well, let me show you. So if you click on mode over to vocoder, then you'll be in vocoder mode. And what I'm going to do is start from an existing vocoder sound. That'll make it easier to demonstrate things. I'm going to click over to my banks tab here. And I have a bank of sounds made by the illustrious Cuckoo. And he did a lot of sounds in here that use the vocoder mode. So I think they'd be a good starting point for demonstration. Let's see. Yep, here's Vixel Pixel. Here's what it sounds like. So what this is doing is it's using the envelope follower in hold mode. That's over here in EF Sense. That is setting the envelope follower to not listen to the microphone, but instead to just use stored values. So normally the vocoder is using the microphone or an instrument as audio input that is driving an envelope follower that is listening to the amplitude of the sound at all the different frequencies and changing it in time to give you like your typical robot voice sound or whatever. What this does is in hold mode, this bottom row of parameters shows you a fixed volume level for each part of the frequency spectrum. So basically, if I turn these all up, I'm going to get a sound that is very wide spectrum. Let me turn them all up and go to a sawtooth wave, and you get something that's, let's see, I think it'll sound kind of like a typical sawtooth. It does not. Let's see what's going on here. Let's just reset a bunch of stuff. There we go. Okay, that resonance being up was really changing the sound. Okay, so I set the resonance a little lower, and now we got more of a basic sawtooth sound. It still sounds a little weird because it's running through the bandpass filters of the vocoder. This is a way you can get really different sounds out of the microKorg, and you can really sort of shape the sound in ways that are less typical. So with the envelope follower down here, what I was showing is these are parts of this frequency spectrum. 1 is the lowest and 16 is the highest. So like if I turn down the top ones, you'll lose brightness in the sound. It sounds more muted. Whereas if I turn down these bottom ones, you'll lose some of the bass. So these are an interesting way that you can sort of shape the spectrum of the whole sound. It can be interesting to sort of just totally kill some of the bands and leave others open. It's giving you more of a nasal sound there. Let's turn the bass back up there. Up here, the pan, that's where you can take different parts of the frequency spectrum and spread them in stereo. So like one thing I like to do is alternately pan some of these different parts of the spectrum to give kind of a wider sound. This part of the editor, it gives you control over the bandpass filters in terms of moving around where they're listening and how sharply they are cutting up the parts of the spectrum. If I turn up the resonance, I get more of a ringing sound. As you can see, if you just start messing around with these, you can get some much stranger sounds. And you can hear how when I move that cutoff around, it's an interesting parameter to modulate. And you can modulate it with a modulation source. So if I pick, let's say, an LFO and turn that up a little bit, and make this LFO go a little faster, you should hear sort of a modulated vocal sound. There you go. And this is all just with the sawtooth wave. You can also pick any of the oscillators to work with and get totally different effects, as well as, modulating the oscillator itself before it goes through the vocoder. You can get really weird with it. Let's set this to be modulated by LFO2 and then modulate the pulse width with LFO1. All right, now when you bring in this cross-modulated sine wave, it gets even weirder. It's almost sort of a hard sync sound. All right, I think I've subjected you to enough strange vocoder sounds. Okay, let's go over the Arpeggiator. For that, I'm going to load a simple sound from Cuckoo's Bank. This is the NES Square. And I'm going to turn on the Arpeggiator. If I hold down a bunch of notes, I get a sequence. And I can turn on and off steps in the sequence. Can change the direction that it cycles through the notes. Can increase the range to go over more than one octave. You can even change the length of the sequence to something strange like 5. Start to get sequences that don't sound very regular. And you can change the length of the notes as well. And that gives you a basic idea of what the Arpeggiator can do. Okay, well, I think that will do it for today. I hope that gave a demonstration of some of what you can do on the microKorg with or without patch bass. But patch bass kind of makes it easier to see what's going on inside the synth and kind of open up the possibilities of it a little more. If this was interesting to you, let me know. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. This is my first time doing this and I want to do more. So any feedback you have, positive or negative, is helpful. And hope to see you next time. Thank you.